The New York Times trying to stick it to the Prime Minister of Israel, Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State for the United States of America, being very candid and very honest that the reason we don't have hostages back, the reason we don't have any kind of agreement is because of Hamas manipulating the situation. And he questions, where's the world? Why are you putting pressure on Israel? Why is there no pressure being put on Hamas to end this war? Listen in. I think it's fascinating.
An agreement on a ceasefire that brings the hostages home. The two biggest impediments to getting that over the finish line, and we've been so close on several occasions, and as we speak today, we're also very close. There have been two major impediments, and they both go to what drives Hamas. One has been, whenever there has been public daylight between the United States and Israel, and the perception that pressure was growing on Israel, we've seen it. Hamas has pulled back from agreeing to a ceasefire and the release of hostages. And the focus on getting a ceasefire hostage agreement was what was, in our estimation, the quickest and most durable way to get an end. And as I said, Hamas won. When they saw Israel under pressure publicly, they pulled back. The other thing that got Hamas to pull back was their belief, their hope that there'd be a wider conflict, that Hezbollah would attack Israel, that Iran would attack Israel, that other actors would attack Israel, and that Israel would have its hands full and Hamas could continue what it was doing. So we worked very hard to make sure that that didn't happen. Part of that was making sure that Israel had what it needed to defend itself, to deter broader aggression. The second part of that was when we were on the precipice on multiple occasions of having the wider war that Hamas wanted, we found ways through diplomacy and through defense and deterrence to avert it.
Did you have a partner in Benjamin Netanyahu? Because it was reported that he blocked a ceasefire deal in July that would have led to the hostages being released. Is that true?
No, that's not accurate. What we've seen time and again is Hamas not concluding a deal that it should have concluded. There have been times when actions that Israel has taken have, yes, made it more difficult, but there's been a rationale for those actions, even if they've sometimes made getting to a conclusion more difficult. For example, the killing of Sinwar. In the absence of Sinwar, where you had basically a single decider, that happened just at a point where we thought we might be able to bring this agreement over the finish line. All of a sudden, there's not a single decider, and it's a lot harder to get a decision out of Hamas. So all of these actions have second and third order effects that you have to calculate. But fundamentally, look, one of the things that I found a little astounding throughout is that for all of the understandable criticism of the way Israel has conducted itself in Gaza, you hear virtually nothing from anyone since October 7th about Hamas. Why there hasn't been a unanimous chorus around the world for Hamas to put down its weapons, to give up the hostages, to surrender, I don't know what the answer is to that. Israel, on various occasions, has offered safe passage to Hamas's leadership and fighters out of Gaza. Where is the world? Where is the world in saying, yeah, do that, end this, stop the suffering of people that you brought on? Now, again, that doesn't absolve Israel of the way of its actions in conducting the war. But I do have to question how it is we haven't seen a greater sustained condemnation and pressure on Hamas to stop what it started and to end the suffering of people that it initiated.
Quite powerful. I'd like to bring out a few points here. One is about the public pressure or perceived pressure that there is on Israel is a reason for Hamas to continue fighting. Furthermore, they're hoping for a wider conflict. Hezbollah, Syria, well, no longer. Iran, the Houthis, which hasn't worked out too well either. Which then it brings into question, like, why are they continuing? So I think this is part of the problems the West doesn't appreciate and understand, because the Western mentality is really more peace-minded. Let's get on with life. let's have, good life and, ourselves, our families, our communities. That's not the mentality of the radical uh, Islamic believer. The radical, they believe that they have to change the world and have everybody under the guise, under the thumb, under the rulership of the Quran, of Islamic rule. And they're ready to die for that. Anthony Blinken, what are you ready to die for? They're ready to die for things I'm not certain that you would be ready to. Not like they, that's the truth. And we all have to ask ourselves, a life that's worth living is one that you want to die for. So they want to die for it. I don't know if it's because they have a life that's worth living. That's a different conversation. But this is what's holding them back, is that they believe so strongly in their cause, which is an important lesson to learn out, to believe strongly in your cause. But of course, if it's a death cult, if it is a cause that is to bring wreak havoc on your own people and all of humanity, that's not something a life worth living for, of course. So that's an important point to bring out. But thank you for bringing out the clarity that, what Israel needs to do and will continue to do. And hopefully America will, and other countries will not only understand, but will be supportive. What are your thoughts? Please share with me.